So with our handsome Mr. T, ready Tucker? So we were just working a little bit with some novelty. So I know you guys were mentioning like having, for example, some mouthy-like behaviors. Remember that for a lot of puppies, they see their whole world through their sense of smell, but they also explore with their mouths. So obviously the problem with that is sometimes we become the target by mistake because puppies do tend to mouth other puppies when they're playing and the environment. So if you're finding he is especially an awful land shark in the sweetest way possible, but it's not feeling so good, there are some things I would recommend to not do and other things that I find would be really helpful. So you do not want to squeal to try to teach them that it hurts or you're trying to be like a puppy in distress. So the problem with the squealing is either one, it scares your puppy and they don't understand why all of a sudden now everything is scary. Or for example, it could agitate or excite them. So I wouldn't recommend to make more noise if your puppy is failing at something. What I would recommend though is gauge how much sleep is my puppy getting. So puppies need between, let's say for example, 18 to 20 hours of sleep a day. So if your puppy is not getting enough rest, they are going to be overtired and therefore the brain and the mouth disconnect and it's just mostly a mouth with legs. So if you're finding that is happening, mandatory rest periods throughout the day, really crucial. So even if, for example, you are having your babe take naps, you want to make sure that their nap schedule doesn't have to be exactly the same thing every day. But you want to make sure maybe they're out for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever you can tolerate and they're doing well with. And then they go in for another nap, be it in their little corral, their baby gated area, or their crate. I will, as I mentioned a little earlier, I'm going to send along all the resources for all the students just in case for reference, but also since he is new, you guys will have more materials other than just the YouTube channel for him and his student buddies. So right now all I'm doing is I'm warming up with some Find Its, which is where I toss a food item. And then as he comes into my space, I either feed him for that or I toss another one so we can bounce back and forth. So if you're finding, oh my goodness, chewing is also optional. We're working on our chewing and walking and doing all those big skills. So if you have toys out and about for him, I would recommend to not have everything under the sun available. So the reason behind that is when, let's say you bring him out of his crate or into the corral or you pop into that bubble and now you are the novel thing, all of his toys that have been out the whole time don't seem as cool because you're the novel thing. I would highly recommend pick a zone in your home that would be a safe bubble, yes, to set up your handsome guy for success. So we want to, just like as if he was a baby, we would want to prevent him getting harmed or ingesting things that could be dangerous by preventing it through management. So about 75% of your practice will be helpful through the prevention of him getting good at something. So using baby gates, using corrals. So right now I'm just warming up with a little bit of loose leash walking as I'm blabbing. So what this looks like is anytime Mr. Handsome is next to me, I'm feeding him. If you find while you're feeding him, he is eating your fingertips. So again, those piranha teeth don't feel good. Don't put your food between your fingertips where your food and your fingers are very close to each other. They can't always distinguish where the food starts and ends compared to your hand. There goes the heat again. So right there I might go, yes. I'm gonna feed him a little snack for noticing the heat coming on because he might think that's a little bit spooky. So now let's say, for example, there's an awful odor. You smell this disgusting odor, but let's say every time you smell it, you got $1,000. You're gonna start to search out for that really stinky smell to get another grand. So for him, I'm not saying that we always want to be the scariest thing ever and then try to pair it with food. But let's say he heard my heat pop on and he was like, ooh, he's a little bit unsure. I might go, yes. And then yes means here comes food. And we could change his emotional response to that sound or sight or whatever it might be. So right now as we're meandering, if let's say he is trying to eat my fingers or he's going for my shoes, I like to go ahead and redirect him to do a little Find It and then see if I could help him through the situation. If, for example, right now your puppy doesn't know what it means to let go of something, so I know we were working on drop it, give, or out with Mr. W, you may find take a peek-see over my toy exchange game, also making sure that we're creating good associations with letting go versus creating some negative where it could turn into gulping or, for example, resource guarding. So for Mr. Handsome right here, let's say we're working on some skills and he wants to kind of eat your fingers. I recommend to feed flat palm as it was a livestock situation. So when I go, Tucker, yes, and I feed flat palm, so at no point do any of my fingers get bombarded. Chewing is still optional. Good job catching that bad boy after. Oh my goodness, you got it? He says, lady, I don't know how to walk, chew, and move all at the same time. So right here, I'm going to get his attention, feed for being by my side, and continue on my way. So this way, as I'm feeding with my flat hand, I might have my thumb cover the snack so it doesn't fall out. But as I go to feed, I move my thumb out of the way, and my hand is then flat. So then no fingers go into the puppy's mouth. So right here, I might be meandering. Ready, Tucker? Nice. So right here, we're getting some nice check-ins, and I'll feed him for here. So if you're finding mouthing is really extreme, you may find that he's going through another little moment with losing some baby teeth. So puppies around, his breed, I'd say, would start losing their baby teeth around, let's say, 5 months or so, give or take. There will be a second teething phase where when your puppy hits around 9 months, their bigger incisors start to poke through, and you thought you were finally getting to a good groove with mouthing and chewing on items, and now all of a sudden they're restarting. So it could be one of those situations where he is getting his bigger boy incisors in later, and that could be where he's restarting with this mouthiness. Right here, yes. So the positive interrupter would be when I make my little kissy noise, it means come check in for a paycheck. This is how I like to interrupt my puppy mid doing something maybe I'm not a huge fan of. So let's say my puppy's about to go grab my hat, or they're going to go bombard the toddler, whatever it is. I could go and do, and then feed for that coming back into my space. Winston says, my turn next. He already had his turn, but he says again. So let's say, for example, Mr. Handsome right here is, let's say I send him away for a find it, and then I'm practicing working that little kiss noise. So right here, I would go, yes. And this could be really helpful for gaining focus, for later, let's say, working recalls, all of this fun. So a lot of times we think of behavior as right or wrong, like I mentioned a little earlier for Mr. W. So right here, yes. I would recommend to, like I said a little bit prior, is make sure that you're watching, if you can, all of the videos for the day with all the students, because a lot of times the materials kind of flow in and out of each other. So then you get the full picture by watching all of the students. So let's say again right now he's off and doing his own little thing. I'm going to see if I'm going to start meandering, if he might be able to come into my space and pay attention. Yeah, nice job. And I'm feeding him for that. So good job, sir. So also another good point is try to keep training sessions short and sweet. So did it go in the crack? Probably. So if your training sessions go longer than 5 to 10 minutes and your puppy is having a hard time, which normally having a hard time is they're unable to focus. They're starting to be turned into a land shark. They're starting to go after other gear or your leash or your pants or whatever. So there could be moments where when they're giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. So I'd highly recommend for Mr. T is to keep the sessions a few minutes at a time, but then rotate through other skills so it's not just one thing you do for 5 minutes. So you'll see that even though he's offering gorgeous sits, I would feed for the thing I'd like to have happen again. If, let's say, he was jumping and mouthing, I would turn and pivot, and then I'd quickly ask him to do something else, like maybe a find it, or redirect to the appropriate item, or set him up for a nap. So remember, you're not going to wait until he's failing to then get upset and then go ahead and place him in for a nap. See if you can proactively figure out how long he does well, and then keep it sometimes a little shorter or less. So before he starts to have a hard time, we go in for a break. You'll start to see the different changes as he's going from, comfortable to not as comfortable. And then that way you can start to create these dynamics where at times, let's say he's maybe not understanding something, you might have to go back and rework those skills through different developmental stages. So right here, we might go, Tucker, yes, and gorgeous name recognition from the environment. Let's say that went really well. I'm going to send him away with a little crumb. And then from here, Tucker, come. Yes. If, again, you're using different slogans, just let me know. So I typically assume most folks use the word come for coming when called. But if you have a different one, just let me know, and I won't mess up his cues. So let's say, again, a little distracted. Tucker, come. Yes. So you could start to build in this practice with, again, name recognition and coming when called. We will also dive into some recall rules. I think there was another video with Alston, a previous pup in one of the other previous rounds. And he was doing some practice with recall, and I went into recall rules. I'm so sorry. My darn tickle. Doing a good job. I know Mr. W says me too. Next time, I'm definitely bringing cough drops because me blabbing for a while. Let me turn down the heat so it shuts off for a second. I'm so sorry about my coughing. Winston says, I shall add. But I find too, oh, he's going for a little drink of water. Perfect. So if when you're practicing with your gorgeous guy or gal, is if the training doesn't seem to be going in the right direction, remember to take it easy, maybe lower the criteria and see if you can help him be successful. If there's ever a moment where you're like, you know what, he's just having a teething moment, you know, he's maybe overtired, he's overstimulated, just go ahead and take a little pause and then start that session another time later. So right now he's having a nice little drink and he hears a very loud truck. Yes. So right there with the truck, I'm pairing some of that noise with now feeding him as the truck is making some loud noises. Not always can you guys hear the same audio that we can, or the same noise factor. It doesn't always get picked up on the mic. But every once in a while, if there is something novel, I want to make sure that the novel thing is now paired with something beneficial. Nice. So beautiful reorientation to me. So we'll keep working a little bit more with some of this moving and feeding for being nearby. But I'll be sending you guys some of those visuals as well. So some of the materials, it should be 2 emails. I know some, again, nothing new. It's still material that you guys had seen prior. But since Mr. T is new, he's never seen some of these materials with his family. So there will be some documents. There's going to be some Word documents and some PDFs, and that'll be in one of the emails. And then the other email will have visuals, not in the sense of videos, but instead pictures or imagery or flow charts and things like that that would help with your puppy. Tucker, come. Yes. So, but maybe what we'll do is we'll give Mr. T a little break. He's doing a really, really nice job. And we'll keep working through some of these skills. Mr. W says, I am tired. But we'll keep working through some of these skills and we'll progress and see what's going well and what's still having some challenging moments. And then we just want to make sure that as we're practicing, we keep our end consistent at the home front and here. So everybody's saying the same slogans or using similar hand signals, all that fun. Because it's already hard enough to understand what we as people are, wanting out of them. So make sure that we're staying consistent so it's not more confusing to the little guy who doesn't always understand what the heck we want from him. But Mr. T, for his very first day, did such a nice job. So we're probably going to give him a little rest. He says that sounds silly. And if, for example, you get woo-woos, I would either ignore or redirect to something you'd prefer. I'm not saying Mr. T can't talk, but sometimes he might think wooing is what gave you some sort of response. And then you might get a dog that just yells at you all the time. And if you like it, that's fine. But I know for some folks, like when you can't pay attention to the dog and now they're barking at you while you're mid-phone call or mid-cooking or whatever it might be, it may not be optimal for you guys either. So again, now we're doing another little find it. I'm going to see if I can just get his little focus back on me. So Tucker, come. Yes, very nice. So remember, I'm not going to scold or correct him for making the mistake. I would help him through it if he's not doing well. But we're going to give Mr. T a little breather. I'll do a little find it for him, and we'll call it a day for this handsome guy. But super job for day number 1.